think it's pretty much complete. So welcome to the little shop that used to be a shed. So a year in the making, and obviously a ton of changes have taken place here. And in this video I want to share a little bit what I've been working on most recently, but I also want to go back to the very beginning and go over the whole process a little bit. So if anyone else out there have a little sad shed in their backyard that they want to turn into something actually useful, you'll know a little bit more what to expect.
So this shed was on the property when we bought it, and as soon as I saw it, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it.
So I'm picturing a small shop in here, like small woodworking bench, desk, hand tools. Make it a really nice and cozy little space away from the big shop.
I guess I should mention that I share a big workshop with my husband, and that space is great. It is not, however, private, and that's really what I wanted here. A place just for me to work in, alone. And I know it's a huge luxury to be able to have two workspaces, although highly beneficial in terms of productivity, I think, especially since both of us work from home. So having a space just for yourself is, I don't know, a good thing for everyone's sanity. Let's just put it that way. Now, the space didn't need to be big, and this fit the bill. It's a very ordinary prefab shed that measures 10 by 14, so 140 square feet or 13 square meters. It had some shed-style windows, a plywood floor, and was sitting on the ground on some concrete blocks.
So the inside here is pretty decent sized space actually. I just take a moment and share what I'm thinking here. We place these windows, beautiful workbench right here, big desk over here, all kinds of nice tools I want to hang on this wall.
The very first thing I did was to evaluate the structure, and I saw that it had a lot of mud splashing on the side and some slight water damage because it was situated too close to the ground. And obviously I didn't want to put in any time and resources into the space if it wasn't going to be good long term. So first step was to jack it up and get it off the ground a bit. I used a car jack for this and added an additional concrete block on all the footers.
Now there are more blocks in the front here, but in order to get to those I need to disassemble or demolish this ramp right here.
So that meant I had additional space now underneath the building, and I decided to crawl underneath and attach rigid insulation. Perhaps not the most glamorous or fun job to do, and definitely not for the claustrophobic, but I was determined to do it. In my old shop in Oregon, I didn't insulate the floors, and it always felt a little drafty and cold coming from underneath. So I really wanted to insulate this place well, and that included crawling underneath with a staple gun and attaching these rigid boards. Next, I built a small deck, and this deck now I've been using for almost a year, and it's been great because it really increased the footprint of this entire building. Over time, as I've been working on this building, doing construction and renovations, I've been constantly using the deck for cutting and other stuff, so I would highly recommend building some sort of platform if you have the space, because it makes everything feel larger. After a while, getting up and down the deck without stairs was getting a little old, so I built some basic ones on the side. And this whole deck design is one part that I'm still not done with. I want to make some nice railings and include lighting, and that's something I hope to do this spring or summer. But having a deck and having stairs definitely makes a big difference. Okay, so time to start tackling the actual building in terms of structure. And I wanted this little house to actually feel like a house and not a shed. So in order to accomplish that, I needed to replace the door and add a real door. And I also wanted to replace the current windows, which felt kind of fake, and add new windows. And I figured, why not add additional windows as well?
So I'm not getting 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 windows for 140 square feet.
When you're doing the framing yourself, you realize that adding more windows is really not a big deal. They're not that expensive and it's not that difficult. Plus, I think that having several windows, it just makes the space so livable and comfortable to be in. So it's a pretty reasonable investment, I think.
So the last window will go right here, starting on this side of the stud. And this is the one that will have an air conditioner in it on the bottom level inside the window.
So the front section was completely reframed, and that's because I wanted to add a window and a different door, so much of the framing needed to be changed, and it just made more sense to start from scratch, as opposed to fiddling around and keeping some of the old stuff.
It's getting dark, but it's supposed to be raining tonight and tomorrow, so I'd like to get get this covered up as much as possible, get the OSB on. And I would say that's a wrap.
Next up, I installed a door with a window. And it's funny, as you work on a project like this, each upgrade makes it feel just a bit more real, if you know what I mean. Going from a shed door to an actual and actual windows, it really changes the space, and it's quite exciting as you're doing it.
So the door is installed. Of course, there's no way to close it or open it right now, so I need to install a handle. So I decided to go with an electronic lock for the door, since I live here and I don't want to be carrying around a key, yet I do want to be able to lock this place up. So I think that's going to work out really well.
Then I moved on to adding some trim around the windows outside, and here you can also see the original siding, T111, which is a cheap product, standard on sheds. It's basically designed so the siding and the sheathing is the same, so only one layer. Now, I had to put up new siding on the front section, which I reframed, and I didn't want to go that route there. So I put up OSB on top of the studs and then attached fiber cement siding on top of that, which is more durable, and I think it looks nicer too.
So I painted the house all white. Love the white, crisp look. Now I think it's time to add a pop of color to the door. So I've been working on the electrical here, drilling holes through the studs and doing the wiring all across. So we're putting in several outlets. I want to make sure I have lots of outlets. So this switch is for the complete shop, all the electrical outlets, lighting, whatever. And then this is going to have two switches in here, one for indoor lights, one for outdoor lights.
Of course, I was really lucky in the sense that this shed already had electricity drawn to it, so that was one thing I didn't have to tackle. And once the wiring was complete, I moved on to insulation. I went with basic cheap fiberglass insulation for the interior, and I hadn't installed the air conditioner yet, and this was in the middle of the hot Virginia summer, and insulation work is not really that fun in the heat, but it's pretty straightforward work.
Okay, so when putting down the flooring in the big shop, we use this Bostik Reinforce glue, which creates a moisture barrier and act as a glue for the wood to be glued down onto the concrete. I have a little bit of leftover. I'm gonna put down a coat, pretty thin coat, inside this little shop before I put down the floor here. So I got started on the drywall yesterday, and my plan is to first put up the 6 sheets which I picked up, and then get some of the white oak flooring out of the big shop because I need to make some more room in there, put the flooring down here, then go and get more drywall and put it up to finish it up.
Okay, so in terms of flooring, there are obviously a lot of ways you can go, and I was asking myself, what would be optimal? And if I could have anything, I would go with white oak. I think that's beautiful, very durable, perfect for a shop. And since I'm making this building a little gem, I wanted to feel like a gorgeous cabin in the woods. I decided to go that route. This was rustic grade, which we got at a good price and used in the big shop as well. And I think that if there is one thing which is really making this space, it's the floor. It just came out beautiful. Now, the main focus of this room will be a woodworking bench, which I've been planning for a while now, getting the design and the wood ready, as well as getting a couple of accessories.
So I picked up these 2 holdfasts at an antique woodworking shop. They're rather rusty, they're hand forged, but I thought they would be quite perfect for my new bench that I'm working on. So to remove the rust, I'm going to be using this. The WD-40 Specialist Rust Remover Soak. So time is 10:30. We'll see how long it needs. I would say that's working very well.
I'm gonna let it soak overnight.
Okay, it's morning and let's take a look at this. It's kind of cold out.
So that turned out great. Really like the finish on that. You can't see any rust at all, just beautiful. So I want to thank WD-40 for partnering with me on this video, and I can't wait to build the bench for the space and actually use the holdfasts. It's gonna be nice.
Okay, got temporary child-proof porch railing on here, but let's go inside.
I think in some ways I'm gonna do the gable ends first. So gable ends, ceiling, and then the remaining of the walls. Maybe a little bit unorthodox in the order.
Now, I know some people are thinking, it's a shop, why are you doing drywall? Why not plywood or something like that where you can nail and screw in anywhere? Basically, drywall is a lot cheaper than putting plywood everywhere, and I'll figure out storage solutions in other ways. Also, I decided to cut the drywall up in relatively small pieces so that I could lift it myself. And I realized that would increase the amount of mudding and taping that I would have to do, but I didn't care too much because it's a shop and it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect.
Success!
And with this, I'm now done putting up this on the wall. Finally.
So next I moved on to mudding and taping. There were a lot of seams and took me a while to complete. I ended up doing 3 coats of mudding and then sanding.
Looks good. Maybe it's not perfect everywhere, but it's a shop.
Now, in order to make this shop really nice and comfortable to spend time in, I wanted to put a little extra thought into the window trim. I happened to have additional leftover white oak flooring, so I glued up a bunch of panels and made trim out of it.
I've got my panels, I've got my cut list, so now I'm gonna cut them to size and then assemble.
So I put the floor down and then did drywalling and painting, and it's kind of dirty. But I was debating whether to sand down everything, but that seems like a lot of work. But I do want it to look clean and I do want to put a finish on it.
I think for a shop floor, the finish should not be too shiny. I made that mistake once in the past, and too shiny equals very slippery when you introduce sawdust. It is nice, however, to have some sort of protection on the wood, so I'm simply adding 1 coat of some water-based spar urethane finish.
I got the flooring cleaned and finished and it's just gorgeous. Looks like the ideal dream space. I'm so happy with it. Just like the flooring does everything.
I used water-based finish on the floor, but I ran out of it. So now I am finishing all the baseboards before attaching them to the wall. I'm using the Armor Seal General Finishes, which is an oil-based finish. And that's what I used on the window trim as well, which is looking really nice. Okay guys, so I would say that we're at this point now where the renovation, the construction, all of that is finally done for this space. And you know what's kind of funny? When I was first Thinking about this space on paper, my plan was to build a loft here and put a desk here facing the wall, put storage, and then a little seating area right here. And then put the bench right this way, like this in the middle. And then I kind of started using the space some, and I realized, no, that's not what I want to do at all. God, it's bright. So now I've completely reversed this idea after spending some time in here. So I don't want to sit at a desk looking at the wall. I'm gonna put my desk in this corner right here. Da-da-da. The bench will be right here. I will have storage, hand tools, things like that in the back. And then everything else will just kind of fill itself in. So I have a lot of stuff in this cart right now, kind of useful things. So one of my first things that I want to do is build like a very compact storage cart. I was debating whether a miter saw is that important, but I do realize that it's something that is, I just use it all the time, and this little one I can bring outside when I use. I think I'm gonna get some hooks and hang it on this wall right here, so it's out of the way. Of course, this has been a long process, and I think often when you look at these kinds of things, when you see these transformations on HGTV and various renovation channels and stuff like that, it seems like this takes place overnight, like a weekend, and you know, you just make it like immediately. But this has actually taken me about a year to do. Of course, I could have been more efficient, I could have focused on it completely and got it done a lot faster. But I do think that I'm a pretty good representation of how people might actually do this. A little bit like at a time, when you can do it, when you have the time. So it's kind of like a dream come true to get it to this point, this gorgeous little hideaway. I've actually been coming out here at night lately, and I mean, this is a very short walk from my house, but the thing is, it is not my house. I'm not sitting in my bedroom editing. This separation, which is just so nice to have. On this wall back here, I eventually want to make some really nice hand tool storage and everything, but I'm not quite there yet, so I'm going to put up some pieces that I already have to make it more useful in the meantime. I need to put some curtains up. It's so bright, I can't see the computer or anything. Now, I also want to take a moment and thank my patrons for supporting my work and my channel. And this past year, or really the past like 3 years, have really been a time of transition for me. Having my kid, moving across the country, then getting settled in, and then working on this space. And it's been kind of tough, to be honest. I'm finally getting to the point now where I can do the kind of work that I want to do, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I want to thank you guys for supporting me throughout this process and for sticking with me. And yeah, if you want to support the channel and the work that I'm doing here and that I want to do more in the future, then please check out the link in the description below. But yeah, I think that is about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Yeah, I hope this video was interesting and useful. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.